You know that feeling, right? You're at the checkout, you see the total, and you just think, how? How did it get so high? It seems like every time we shop, the prices have crept up just a little bit more. So what's really going on behind those numbers? Well, in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers and find out. Seriously, it can feel like a total mystery, can it? One week, a carton of eggs cost one thing, the next, it's completely different. Today, we're actually going to try and solve that mystery by digging into the data behind those price tags. And spoiler alert, the answer isn't simple. It's somewhere in the middle, between the food in your basket and a really complex-looking financial chart like this one. To really get what's happening to your food prices, we have to connect the dots between our everyday shopping and the huge economic forces that are pulling the strings. So our story starts right at the top with the national budget. Because believe it or not, decisions made in government have a direct, very real impact on what you end up paying for dinner. Now, what's so interesting here is this kind of push and pull from the government. In the latest budget proposals for 2025, they're giving with one hand by making more foods VAT-free, but they might be taking away with the other. So what's getting added to that zero-rated list? Well, starting from May 2025, the proposal includes things like edible offal, so heads, feet, bones, and also dairy liquid blends and canned vegetables. These are items a lot of people use, and it's pretty clear that meat eaters, which is a huge part of the population, stand to benefit quite a bit here. But, and this is a big but, here's the other side of that coin. The plan is to actually increase the overall VAT rate. The proposal lays out two little hikes of 0.5% each. And when you add those up, you get a full 1% increase, bringing the rate to 16% by 2027. So while a few specific items might get a bit cheaper, pretty much everything else you buy is going to get more expensive. Okay, so let's step away from government policy for a second and look at what happens in the marketplace itself. Because there's this weird thing that happens. Even when the costs for supermarkets go down, those savings don't always seem to make it to you and me. So what's up with that? To get our heads around this, there's one key idea we need to talk about: the retail spread. Now, put simply, this is just the cut that the people in the middle take, the processors and the supermarkets. It's that gap between what a farmer gets for their produce and what you actually pay at the till. And this chart for sunflower oil just shows it perfectly. See the orange line? That's the price paid to the producer. Look at how it just plummets in late 2023. Okay, now look at the blue line. That's the price you'd pay in the store. See how it barely budges? That huge growing gap in between, that is the retail spread getting bigger. And look, this isn't just me saying this. The Competition Commission themselves called it out in their report. They basically said that the fact that retail prices aren't dropping when producer prices do, well, it calls into question the behavior of retailers. That's a pretty big deal. It means when costs fall, we're not always seeing those savings. All right, let's zoom in even further. Let's look at one single, absolutely crucial food item to see how all these market forces really play out: white maize. I mean, this is the staple food for millions of people. You see, maize isn't just another crop on the list. It is literally the foundation of food security for the entire Southern African region. Whatever happens to the price of maize affects pretty much everyone, especially the poorest households. And in late 2024, something really weird started happening. Okay, look at this chart. That orange line is the import parity price. Think of it as the price ceiling. It's what it would cost to import maize. So our local prices, that blue line, should pretty much always be below that line. But look, for months, local maize was actually more expensive than imported maize. That just shouldn't happen when we still have a surplus in the country. So what on earth caused that? Well, it was a perfect storm, really. First, a terrible drought hit not just us, but the whole region. That meant our neighbors like Zimbabwe and Zambia were desperate for maize, which drove up our export demand. At the exact same time, demand from our own processors here at home was still really high. So you had this massive demand coming from all sides, hitting a supply that was already under pressure. So we've looked at policy, we've looked at market forces, but there is one last, much darker piece to this puzzle. It's what happens when the system is deliberately exploited through corruption, and the ones who pay the price are the most vulnerable of all. Just try to imagine this: a supplier for a school feeding program charging 22 Rand for one loaf of bread. This isn't just a made-up example. This came from an actual report sent to Corruption Watch. And it's just one of over 500 reports they've gotten about dodgy dealings in the National School Nutrition Program. And it's not just random acts. The methods are systematic. We're talking about everything from inflating invoices for food to just lying about how many kids need to be fed to paying the cooks less than what's on the books and pocketing the difference. And sometimes it's as simple and brutal as just stealing the food that's meant for the children. And this is where it becomes just devastatingly personal. In one case from the Western Cape, a principal allegedly told the kitchen staff to just add water to the fish curry to make it stretch further. This isn't about economics anymore. This is about literally taking food out of the mouths of children. So let's try to tie all of this together. We've gone from national tax policy to supermarket pricing to a massive regional drought and all the way down to outright theft from school kids. That price you see on the shelf, it's the end result of a long, complicated, and sometimes a really broken chain. And that leaves us with one last big question. The next time you're standing in that grocery aisle, just think about what you're really paying for. Is it just the food? Or is part of that price tag also made up of policy gaps, weird market behavior, and in the ugliest cases, someone else's greed?